projections. If we're projecting our ideas or our feelings, others will pick it up, especially animals. Because what you're really saying to an animal is, I'm going to work with you, but you're not perfect. You're not perfect based on how I think you should be, which is like me. That's really what you're saying. Vibrationally, you should be different other than yourself. So there's going to be a reaction in how people, so I would look at people first. So if you treat people the same way as you treat animals, it's going to be much more respectful. I'm not about to project myself onto you, my ideas, my energy, because you're perfect. Now the other thing with an animal is, again, if I project, how does the animal deal with my projections, my thought, my energy, my feelings? It doesn't. Because it doesn't have the same, it doesn't know how to handle that kind of emotion. Now the thing with an animal is that they're unconditional. I would just turn them all off. Here's more up here.
We got this.
Okay, so because an animal is unconditional, it will continue to take on energy that's being projected, not intentionally, but whatever the vibration of the house is. If the house has a lot of turmoil, the animal will pick up the turmoil. If there's a lot of emotions, the animal picks up the emotions. Unfortunately, the animal doesn't know what to do with that, and then you'll see some animals start acting out really badly because of the projection. Just think of it as energy. Energy being projected, I now have to deal with that energy. I could start to have a very strange behavior because I don't know what to do with the projection. And so, unfortunately with animals also, they will, because they're unconditional, they'll pick up all the emotions from their owners to the degree that it actually could make them sick. Think about us. Can we even process all the emotions that are in our life? If everybody you knew was projecting all their emotions and you were trying to deal with all their emotions, how long would it be before you started to have an adverse effect because of the projections? So you and I pull back or say no or retreat or do the things we can do to protect ourselves, but animals sometimes will pick up way too much emotions. Okay? Most animals, if you work with people, you'll find the same patterns that the people have will be on the animals. So exactly the same. So if people have a lower back problem, the animals start developing lower back problems. So they'll start mirroring each other. Same thing in relationships. Your spouse starts to mirroring some of the things that are going on with you. So it seems to be how we learn, or how we mirror each other. Okay? The main thing we want to do is keep from projecting everything because they don't know how to handle that kind of energy. Now, the thing with an animal that I found early on was you could actually scan them and find a hot spot. So all of us know by now that we have a program, one or more programs that have been preset from childhood and on that could be playing out today. They're not in alignment with ourselves, who we are today. Little kids, somebody says you're not going to be worth anything. Are we still running that program? And how does that look today? Right? Now what happens is animals have programs, but theirs are much simpler than ours. Okay? Because they're only going their issues are going to be the things that are in their life. So that if they almost got ran over by a car or got hurt, that could have scared them and actually fractured and caused a program of being scared or frightened. Somebody yelled at them or hit them. If they were left or abandoned, or if they were put into a pound or something, that shocked all of us, wouldn't it? Or left, you know. So there are about 4 or 5 things that animals have that are very easy to pick up, especially if you know your animal, where they came from, what's happened to them in the past. So we need to balance that program. By balancing that program, it enables them to heal. Just like you. If you knew of any subconscious program you had in your psyche and you understood it, I guarantee you your body would not react to energy or people the same way. So the more you understand about yourself, the more you understand about these things that have been with you, the better you feel, or the less reactive you are to people's projections, okay? So now, if I approach that animal and I am projecting my ideas, I'm really saying to the animal, you're not perfect, I want you to be like me. So again, isn't that the same thing we do with people? When we go meet people, do we project ourselves, our energy, our ideas onto them, and do we react to people's projection? And the answer is yes. What would happen if you just met them where they were or are, and just met them there and went from there on? Well, there would be a lot of dynamics that wouldn't take place in our relationships, because there wouldn't be a push and pull, power and control. So what we want to do is, again, pull, I'm going to start showing you how to pull your field in. Now, when I talk about pulling your field in, most people, does energy radiate from our body? Okay. Is there some part of you that instinctively pushes your energy out to protect yourself, or pushes your energy out so you're safe, or to keep people at bay, or to have people like you? So that's the kind of thing about projecting our field out. When you project your field out, you literally are in another person. So if we do have energy, and if it is leaking, if it is coming outside us, and my energy is out here, and somebody's next to me, then they're in my energy field, or I'm in their energy field. And that happens all the time. That happens when you're with somebody, or you're sitting next to somebody, and you start feeling nauseous, or you start feeling or irritated or upset. You're actually mixing your energy with somebody. But again, we do not know how to pull our fields in. It's not been something that has been taught in our culture, how to be present. It's basically, if you were completely present in your body, you would not be reacting to anybody around you. You can feel it, sense it, but I don't want to react to it. We're very reactive to things. Now, so you understand about pulling your field in. I tell you what, most people don't understand it. I can talk about it forever and they still don't understand it. But they've been taught they should push their field out. They've been taught that they should put a bubble and protect themselves. So if you put a bubble around you and protect yourself, who energizes the bubble? Well, if I put a 50-foot bubble around me and I put it up there, where's the energy source coming to keep the bubble activated? Coming from you. But that means anybody that comes in your bubble, you're going to have to energetically push them out or control them because they're in your space. So it'd be just like inviting somebody else. If you had a bunch of people in your body, it certainly would keep you understanding. When we talk about something invisible, is it real or not? I'm telling you, if you push people away and you have your field out, it will eventually break you down. Because it's like you becoming 50-foot big and holding your breath and locking it and then holding that energy. So you want to bring your field in. Now the average person says, when I'm working with people in my healing practices, that by the age of 3 years old, they made a conscious decision not to be here. So whatever they were feeling, and whether they could express their feelings, because they're 3 years old or 2, they probably couldn't. So they're picking up raw grown-ups emotions, and at some point they said, I am not safe being in my body. I would rather let my spirit or my soul sit over there and watch than to feel all the things I'm feeling, because I can't do anything about them. So that's what the average person does. They're out of their body. So again, bringing yourself back in, bringing your field back in. Whatever. So what happens when we get scared or we get startled? First thing you do is you hold your breath, right? Hold your breath and you tense up, getting ready for whatever has startled you or scared you. But as soon as you stop breathing, as soon as you hold your breath and pull in, it also has a physical effect on you. Okay? So that's why we want to, again, be in our space all the time and not push our field out. Right? So any questions about that? It goes against everything that's being taught out there. There is nothing, there's no way, there's nothing I know out there that's being taught that you should pull your field in. It goes against everything that's being taught. Is that correct? Do you know anything? Okay. Again, just think of it logically, is if I push my field out past you, then that must mean all of you are in my field. That has to have a direct effect on me. If I'm working with an animal and I project my field into the animal's field, then I'm really saying to the animal, you're not perfect. I want you to be like me. Of course, how can the animal be like me? So there's going to create a tension or an energetics with that. So what would happen if I approached the animal strictly, really in my space, completely in my space, and the animal space and my space met, and the animal would think that I would be a reflection energetically of it. So in some ways, I'm a mirror of the animal. But isn't that the same way we want people in our life to be? What would happen if you met people in your life that just mirrored you and didn't try to control you or didn't try to make you different? Just allowed you to be how you were. Probably be boring, but anyway, it'd be nice to have that for a while. Most people, again, are going to have some idea. Again, when you push your field out, you are the energetic catalyst that keeps the field out. And again, some people push. Now, I see people all the time that they'll say they push their field out, or they're healing the grids of the planet. Or they push their field out and they're healing some country, or they're healing some area. And they'll be sick as a dog, and they've been sick. And I say, well, why are you doing it? Well, I'm supposed to. I said, well, you need to get sick when I start pushing my field out. Why don't you push your field out? Well, because I'm supposed to do that. So again, it's very, you got to think of this invisible. If you believe you're doing it, even if it's invisible, is it being done? That's all. If you say, I'm doing this, even though nobody can see it, on some level, it must be affecting you. Right? Now, when you push your field in, pull your field in, what will happen is you are not reflecting people's issues. When you do not reflect people's issues, they will not interact with you the same way. Now, either you and I are evolving or we're not. So somehow we're either spiritually evolving. If we're evolving on some level, there would be a mechanism built into you that you would keep attracting people that would reflect your issues so you can continue to learn about what you came in to learn. So this is a big deal, because how many of you feel we're evolving? But it doesn't appear that our physical body is evolving at the same pace as our spiritual body, because we're still, things are falling off and going the wrong direction, and things are not, we're still, no matter how spiritual you are, and how evolved you are, we're still having physical challenges. So I've said for many times that the last frontier is our physical body and our spiritual life. How do we bring our spirituality into our physical body? Now, you got any questions?
Is what you're saying different from my reaction when I see animals is like push out and scoop in. It's automatic. When I see an animal, I scoop them into my space. Yeah. It doesn't matter what animal, it doesn't matter who it is. Yeah. They get scooped in. Yeah. Is that the energy you're talking about?
Well, think about that. So let's say
I just can't get close enough to them. I can't get them close enough to me.
I understand, but in some ways, you're using them. Okay, now why are you using them? So why do we use our animals? Why do our animals feel so good to us? So you ever see the difference between a human soul and an animal soul? What is the difference? I'll give you my theory on that, okay? So if we look at, let's say, this was in the last newsletter when it talked about soulmates. If you really want to look it up, I really explain it in depth there. And if you look at two circles, okay, let's say this is your soul, and the full potential of what you can be, which I don't really know what that means. I don't know what the full potential of any one of us, because I think we've looked around and we can see there's certainly a lot of different ways to look at that. If you look at, here's the full potential. And again, a lot of ways you haven't even explored yourself fully. You know there's more and you're looking at more. The other thing is, do you know who you are or what you are? Do you know what you're supposed to be? Guess what? An animal knows what it is and doesn't want to be anything different. Does it? The dog happy, it just want to be, hang out, do things, doesn't want to change anything, just wants to be. So is it possible that if this is the full potential of your soul, that actually an animal soul is like this? Now you would say to me, oh my gosh, that animal soul is smaller than yours. Not really. It doesn't want to be anything else, so it's actually a perfect size for the being it is. Our problem is we don't know what we want to be, so that's why we can't ever really fill it, because we are trying to be in the image of others. So if you were to scoop up that animal and to feel that, that would actually make you feel better, because they're actually more connected to who they are, what they are, or to what, you know, their true nature than you are.
They're perfect.
You're perfect. So that's why they're there. And they're also unconditional, because they don't want you to be any different. Well, probably feed them a couple more times, but besides that, you're perfect. So if you look at that kind of concept, it'll help you to understand why it's so important. The other thing, though, this is the full potential of what you're going to be, and they're in your space, and you have pain, and you have sadness, and you're mad, or you're hurt, and that dog is in your space, will it have an effect on the animal? Well, yes, it will start to have an effect on the animal, because we would have to assume all these different feelings are vibrations and emotions, wouldn't we? So it would be just like inviting you into my emotions, and then having my emotions constantly bombarding you. Will that have a detrimental effect on you? And the answer is yes. It will have a detrimental effect. Because remember, we have the soul, we have you, but we also have your partner, and we might also have the other people in the house. Okay, now they're all part of it, and they all have feelings and emotions, which the animal is constantly being bombarded by. So the animal. So now we even have more than that. When I was working with a person in Chicago, they brought their dog, and what they did is every day they went for a walk in this big field, several acres that was opened up, and the dog had residual from where they were walking, because it used to be a military base. Now, they didn't know it because the military base was in World War II, and then they closed it afterward. But this was actually a staging base for people going overseas. So there was actually an emotion or an energy that actually was left in some of the areas that the animal was picking up. So now the animal is actually picking up residual from the area. So let's do this. So let's say you have a fence, and there's your property and the other property. And let's say on this thing in this house, there's a lot of anger, upset, a lot of things going on. Let's say they have a dog that has a problem, or is very active or angry or whatever. Does that start to affect your pet? The answer is yes. So whatever this energy is will start to have a rippling effect and will affect your pet. Just like these people will, so will this. So that's what we want to clear, because basically they don't know how to clear it. How much energetic, how much projections can we put on an animal before they physically start to have an effect on them and causes an adverse effect? I don't think any of us know. Okay? But I'm going to show you by the end of the day a very simple way of taking a minute or two, 2 or 3 times, so maybe 5 minutes a week, and clearing them, keeping them clear from them. If they pick up all this different energy and these different projections, and they start to get hurt, will all those projections affect their body or their healing? Yes, it would be just like you. Will you heal better if you're in a quiet, loving place versus in a place of a lot of turmoil and pain? You'd be picking all that stuff trying to heal you. It's the same thing. Rita and I are talking about with our own physical bodies having pain. Is it better to try to take something, an anti-inflammatory, to keep our body in a healing place until we can heal it? Or do we keep the pain there saying we can heal it? So we've been talking about that for the last week. What should we do about that? Well, it's the same thing with energy. Okay? Anybody have a question about this?
Can do the positive emotions link back through the fence too?
The positive emotion? Well, certainly could.
Would they neutralize each other?
Well, yeah, but you got the positive effect from the animal or the house?
Or the household?
Yeah, but think about how many houses are positive energy. I mean, if we're just living normal life, day-to-day stuff, we're probably all just trying to hang on to dear life just to make things okay. Okay, so here you have a nice house and they're very happy, but they're watching and they're all eating and watching the news. Okay, and we watch the news for 2 hours. Does that have an effect on this positive house? The emotions of what we're seeing? Probably to some degree. Hopefully not too much. Okay? So it's kind of confusing when you ask. It should have an effect, but in most cases, well, let's say in Rita's house is another good example. Here is Rita's house, where she is. If you look behind there, there's a power pole and there's a transformer right over here. Now, that transformer, how much energy does that transformer give off in an area? So if we were to monitor it, does it go out 10 feet that we would possibly monitor? First of all of us know we wouldn't want to hang around the transformer. I think we can all agree that there is some energy around the transformer as it is. But does this energy start to go out in waves? And is it possible that her house could be affected by a transformer being very close to her? Okay. So if we are made up of electricity or electromagnetic fields, or if we have a field and all of a sudden I have a transformer that's very close, it could start to ripple my field. And I think most of us have seen, I think there's a lot of evidence now with high-powered lines in somebody's backyard or around them. We know it's starting to give off waves and it starts to affect our field. I think that's pretty well been proven. Okay? So now let's say we have this kind of dynamic and these people have a dog here in their yard, but they're right in the field of the transformer. So if you were in the field of a transformer every day of your life, could not get out, would that make you crazy? Well, it certainly could start to toast some of your brain cells or start to toast you in some ways, because it would be irritating, almost like having a hum or a music on all the time or a vibration all the time, and you couldn't get out of that vibration. So there are many things that affect us. Well, here's one that I think most people can accept. If you're working in a job where you have a lot of electricity, nurses, doctors are the ones I find all the time that they're constantly being bombarded by the most intense types of energy. First of all, human emotions, would we all agree? Very, very intense. Then we have the different types of things as far as being sick and diseases and what's happening to us and how that's scaring us. And then we have all the people, their family, what's going on. And then we have the neon lights that's going on. And then we have all the chemotherapy, the radiation. We have the medical things. We have so many emotions that at some point there has to be a residual that is affecting us. And when you work with people that have been in the medical field, when you go to feel them and scan them and release the energy, but the best way to explain it and describe it is they sat in their microwave for about 5 minutes. That's the best way, because it's just their energy is all shaken. Okay? It's just constantly bubbling energy. Okay? There's no rhythm to it. It's not smooth. It's chaotic. So if that's possible, okay, and you think that might happen, do you think at some point that could be detrimental for the person who's working there? Yeah, because their field is doing stuff, and could they pick up energy or something that could happen? Okay, you have a question?
I had a question about the drawing the field in, I've always wondered if I was empathic, because I can feel other people's pain. And does that explain why? Because my field is out there?
Yes. Okay. So what does a psychic do? So when a psychic reads you, what are they reading on you? They're reading your energy. Right. Because I'm in my field. If you're out of your field, I could read your thoughts. I could read your energy. I could certainly tell if you had a pain, because I could feel the pressure. The thing is, how you want to be empathic by reading, but you don't want the pain. You want to interpret that it is pain, but you don't want to interpret it to where it hurts your body. The fine line, right? Interpretation. I want to sense what it is, but I don't want to feel what it is. See, and that's what happens when we first get started. We're feeling everything, and pretty soon we're overwhelmed by everything we're feeling because we don't know what to do with it. I stopped doing this when I was, I was somewhere in the 80s, I used to project my field out. Because what I was going to do is I was going to heal everybody. So I'm projecting out everything to heal everybody. Now you got to understand, when you're first starting off, in many ways, you think that's how I was told. Project your field out, send them love and light, heal them, okay? I was walking in the airport, coming off one plane, getting ready to go on another plane in Las Vegas, and I was walking in a group of crowd. You know how you're getting off the plane and everybody's walking. I literally dropped to my knees in such pain. I mean, like excruciating pain. You know, the kind you get. And so I dropped down and almost got trampled on because I'm down on my knees. And I got up a little bit, so they, I kind of moved over to the side a little bit. And I was looking around, and there was a guy on a phone. He was on a phone like over where the light was, so he was quite a ways. It was at 25 feet, 30 feet, and he had cancer. It's not just he had cancer, he's going to die. And you know what? He didn't know he had cancer. So now I'm picking up the full blast of what's going on inside him, which he can't feel because he's turned it down, numbed it out, whatever he's done. And at that point, have we gone too far? Yeah. And isn't it how we learn? Yeah. But you don't want to get slapped around like that all the time because it's going to start becoming very detrimental to your physical body. I am literally feeling what's going on with him, and the residual what's going on to him, I am starting to pick up, and it's now having a physical effect on me, past our boundaries. Okay? So we're all doing the best we can to find boundaries with our energy, find boundaries with other people. And the best thing to do is find boundaries physically with other people, because if you can do that, it will help you with your emotions, our spiritual boundaries. Okay? This does not feel good. Please don't do that. Okay? Otherwise, energetically, they're doing it, even though feelings, you'll always be challenged by the people who are closest to you. They'll always be challenging. The other thing is, we spoke about this, that nobody wants you to be in power. Nobody wants you to take your full power. So if you took your full power, what would happen to you and the dynamics of your family? What do you think? You now became totally empowered. How would the family react to you taking your power?
I feel like I am in my power.
Okay, good. But when you stepped into it at some point in your life, and you could very well be in it, but at some point in your life when you really stepped into it, what kind of effect did that have on your family?
No, there was resistance.
Yeah, but what was the resistance? They couldn't control her anymore. She energetically was not there for them the way she had been all of her life. Now, this is what we're doing. We run each other's energy, and we do that to mirror. Hello, look at you, look at this, look at this, look at this. Now all of a sudden you're not there. Now I'm panicking because, now first of all, one of the reasons I'm panicking, let's say I'm her husband, one of the reasons I'm panicking is she's not there. I wonder if she still loves me. Like that. She's always taking all my crap. She's not taking it now, so therefore she doesn't love me. Okay, so it could be something really weird dynamically, okay? But it usually is something that you're no longer doing something you've done, and now I'm angry at her because she's not doing it, because now I have to be responsible for my own emotions. Now, will your family re-engage with you any way they can to get you to do it again? You already know the answer. Okay? And isn't it to when you step up and you say, I can no longer do this because energetically it's making me sick, is when we start to become empowered. When you actually say no. Yes. So, or I'm not doing it that way. Or, but again, how many people are aware of that? Not very many. But if more people could be aware of that, I guarantee you we could save more marriages. You energetically said, I don't have to take this any longer. I still love you, but you're going to have to find a way of you dealing with your own emotions. I'm not taking your emotions and processing. Now, what happens in relationships so it appears that women are much better dealing with their emotions. First of all, I think it's part of our culture, and it's part of something you've explored, your feelings at a very young age. It was okay for you to explore your feelings. Sometimes with men, we haven't had the same practice, or we didn't know we could, or we thought we had to be conditioning. There's conditioning in all different ways. Now, what happens later, when I'm with a woman that is very good with her emotions, I don't want to look at my emotions. I'm angry, I'm upset, or I'm frustrated, or I'm whatever. Okay, I'm not. But she's used to running my emotions. Does she and I become addicted to that behavior? And you know the answer is yes. Okay? And boy, it can get really twisted. Okay? So it's very, remember, lots of times these are patterns that have been there for a long, long time. Now, going back to the thought, are we evolving? So if we're evolving, then I would have to energetically have a mechanism that would attract whatever I come to learn. If I now start loving myself, pulling my field in, I am now not reflecting outwardly anybody's issue. Right? I'm in my space. I'm not out of my space, I'm in my space. Because what I've decided is I'm not choosing to engage with anybody unless I'm physically present. So I'm not just going to blow my field out all over, engage with everything because I have some superhero thing. I'm going to put in my field in, I'm going to be present. If somebody wants to engage with me, I want to physically be conscious of what I'm doing and make a decision if I want to do that or not. Because remember, your nots are going to be a lot more nots than engaging, right? Because there's so much stuff we don't want to feel. So it's very challenging to be open when there's so much stuff you don't want to feel. But I guarantee you, when you clear yourself, and that's the clearing technique, you clear and you pull your field in and you love yourself, that you will change immediately. Everyone in your family will be reactive to your changing, trying to re-engage with you in a way that they can feel that everything is still okay. Now, either they're going to change and find that with themselves or not. So that's, of course, a big challenge because we want them to change, but again, we can't do it the old way anymore. So does anybody have a question about pulling your field in?
Can you do the clearing and centering without the hand motion? Like if you were
Well, sure,
around...
sure, you can. The only reason I have hand motions, and hand motions would be different between men and women, is just the more physical you can make something, the better it is for your head. Remember, you're doing something in your head, and if you can have some part of you physically is participating with what your thoughts are, it's a lot more real. And of course, is that a ceremony? Yeah, it is a ceremony to some degree. You know, are you doing a ritual in some way? Yeah, you're doing a ritual in some way. So those things are much more real than just thinking clear. I know that something must have happened because I did all these movements and my intention was to be clear. Okay?
So it's a reinforcement.
Yeah, reinforcement. Yeah. That's the same thing with saying clear when you go to the toilet, if something's coming out, we know something clear. Because I was thinking clear and it came out, so therefore there's a good possibility that something just came out when I was thinking clear. Okay? it's reinforcement. It would be, now what would happen if you took a glass of water, and every time you drink water, you think this water is now going to go through me and clear my body. You have that kind of intention when you want to drink a glass of water. That would be pretty positive. Okay? So you want it, what would happen if you were showering? Now you're here, you're in a place, you're washing, that feels good, but you're actually thinking in your mind, this water is clearing and cleaning me, and it's actually going through me, and I'm feeling really rejuvenated, my body being rejuvenated. So if you did a little, if you could get your mind in alignment with things that we do, could be much more positive and much more helpful. Any other questions about pulling the field? This is the most confusing thing that anybody that I could talk about.
Have you ever heard of a metaphysician called Stuart Wilde?
Sure.
Okay, because I used to, this was years ago that I studied this stuff.
What about Stuart Wilde?
I just remember that in this one book, I think it was The Quickening or whatever, and I was trying to think whether he talked about pulling in your field, because I remember one thing he was talking about being like invisible, you know, and not, you know, looking at the eye thing and all. I was just throwing that out because you had mentioned that you had never...
Yeah, well, Stuart Wilde, actually, there is a newsletter on there in my library of newsletters that actually talks about him. I didn't name him as such,
Okay.
but actually there's a long, very interesting story about him.
Yeah, I don't
Remember,
follow
all
it.
healers, we've had ups and downs, okay? So this was a really interesting downer moment that he had in his career, you know. The other thing is, you got to, some of these people go on the road for years and years and years and years. You know, do they get drinking problems? Do they have normal life problems? Do they have relationship problems? Yeah. Does that start to have an effect on them? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, there's one on there. I can't tell you what it is, but look under. Would have been about a year and a half ago, and we'll talk about a person that went to Italy to study with him and what happened. But anyway, I don't say his name because it's not fair to pick on somebody unless they're here and they can defend themselves.
The reason I brought that up because I was thinking, like, when you're around a whole bunch of people, like in a crowd or something, pulling your energy in.
Yes.
Okay. How long does that stay in?
Just your intention.
Just
What would
with your-
get you out of it? So let's say you're in a nightclub, or let's say you're in a bar situation, and you pull your field in. What would take you out of your field? What?
Your own intention?
Nah. I mean, that, yes, but you know, you're way too civilized for the dynamics you're in. We're in a place of wanting to attract somebody, right? We're in a place, I don't know, there's a lot of things going on right now. Again, your answer is right, but that's not the deal.
Sexual energy?
Yeah, it could be. Now, this happened to me a long time ago, and I haven't told this story a long time. But I was giving a workshop in Florida, and lunch came with it, so we were eating lunch in this hotel, and so I'm sitting by myself because I'd just been given a workshop for 6 hours, so I didn't want to talk to anybody. And so this lady came over, and she had it was in Florida, a summer dress. And so I was sitting there eating, and when she came over to me, she said, "Hi." So when she did that, I'm looking all the way to as far as I could look. And then immediately, what happened? We engaged. I was irritated at myself, not her. She didn't do anything wrong. He says, but that is a good way of we're looking at something we shouldn't look, and all of a sudden we're running energy. So at that point that I looked at that, not like I'm peeking or something. I'm just trying to eat my lunch, and here it comes. And so I lost my focus for a moment, got energetically engaged, and at that point was she running my energy? Yes. Did she do it on purpose? Yes. Not like a big big plots. We're not talking about the big plot. We're just talking about, do people do certain things to run a certain kind of energy to feel a certain way? And we know the answer is yes. Okay? And of course, unfortunately, when you do something to attract energy to you, you're probably going to get a whole lot more than you want, right? Unless you know when to stop. Because once you start getting into projections, they could be endless projections. Well, that could be a problem. Okay? So, anybody else? So there's a good example of how you could accidentally get something. Now, you accidentally get into it and you want to pull your field back in, and again, get out of it. Now, in the case of this particular person, this situation, and I'm running her energy, I got into that. She's actually running my energy. How long can she continue to run my energy even if she's not around me?
As long as you allow her to.
I didn't allow her in the first place. Just a dumb, just eating my lunch, in my head somewhere else. I wasn't paying attention, okay? And now I'm in it, so how long before I can get out of it? So let's say I don't know I'm in it, okay? Let's say I'm running, she's running it. I didn't mean to, but I didn't know it is happening. Let's say it did happen. Okay? How long could she continue to do that?
Until you pull it back in.
Yeah, forever, long time. Okay? And so that sometimes becomes very alarming, because all of a sudden we get ourselves into something and now we're in it and we don't know how to get out of it. We just don't feel very good, or we feel yucky, or it feels like something, it just feels like, how come, I don't know what words, you all know about different words for your different experiences.
So you can cut it off by pulling your field in?
You pull your field and it stops it.
You don't have to wait for her.
No, but if you don't know it, so you could feel high, I could get a high off that, I could feel really good, I could start feeling like it's very empowering, I could get, she's not standing there any longer, but I could get a high off that, but I'm now running a certain kind of energy, okay, which has a certain kind of outcome to it. It's not going to go like way up into different things, it's going to be a kind of a certain kind of band of energy. So it's like I just took a radio station, I dialed into a certain rock and roll station, and that's the kind of music that's going to be on the station all day long. So if you're looking for something else, you better change stations, because that's all that's going to be there, right? So sometimes things could happen accidentally, and you have to watch it. Well, let's say hugging somebody. So let's say, have you ever been in a group, spiritual people or people, and afterwards they hug, and somebody hugs you in a way, not like they grab you or something, but energetically there's something inappropriately that's taking place with the hug. Yeah. Nobody?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Man, most people, there's a lot of that, okay? So what happened? Okay? You know what happened?
Oh, they started looping with each other.
Start looping with each other, because it is our nature to loop. Now, why is it your nature to loop? It's your nature to loop, to keep looking at the issues and why you came in to learn. Why you came in. Otherwise, who would evolve? Who would evolve? So we want to keep ourselves from looping. All right? Now, it's just like when you're hugging. So, somebody want to hug me? Okay. Now, but we're going to say he's a woman, okay? Or a man person. So what happens is, and let's say you've been, every time you go to hug, there's something energetically that goes on that you don't know what it is, you just don't feel good. What happens with a lot of people, they'll actually stop going to events that situation happens. And that's kind of sad. Now, what happens when you hug, you usually go like this, see? And you're right in alignment with your chakras. So let's say you want to hug, because you have to hug because everybody's hugging, you don't want to feel like you're a strange person. So all you need to do, now I'm not talking about doing this all the time, I'm talking about if there's an uncomfortable feeling ahead of time, and you're in a situation where you don't want to feel anything. So all I would do is go to hug him like this. And what I did is I crossed my leg. I just crossed my foot. So all I did was this. When I went to hug him, I did this. And then what happened was all of our chakras are not in alignment. And there's no energy whatsoever being given. But I still hugged, did the deal, but there was no energy being passed on. Okay? that make sense? And we're trying to get all situations. But again, don't be doing that all the time because there's really nothing you're going to be hurt from. If you're in your space, you actually couldn't be hurt any way whatsoever anyway. And even if there was something that was not appropriate, if you're in your space, you wouldn't react to it and it wouldn't affect you. So there's a much, 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 much better way of doing it other than the way I taught you, but that's a good way to do something if you're feeling uncomfortable with it. Yeah.
Can you ever accidentally pull somebody else's energy?
Sure, absolutely. How do you do that?
I don't know.
Okay. So let's say we're going into a group situation. We're in a group, and we want everybody to like us. I want you all to like me because I'm highly spiritual and I'm really quite a nice guy, and I'm good and everything. So what do? I put my highly good field out, and I put all these things. I push it out. So now we all come together. So what are we doing? We're like, here it is, like here. Here's a good example. So here's the space we're in. Let's say it's a space here. But I'm projecting my field out, and this person's projecting their field out, and we're all projecting our field out. And guess what happens? Besides now, we got a humongous mess because everybody's projecting their field out. It looks like one big zoo of energy, right? So now, what happens is this person here is thinking some inappropriate thoughts, okay? So you're now in their field, you're picking up what they're thinking, it doesn't feel good, and you pull your field in. So here you are now, physically, you pull your field in, at that point, you just drug them into your field. Okay, did you ever do that?
How do you prevent, I think so, how do you prevent that?
You just stop, you go outside, you center, clear, pull your field in, and go back and engage. You just like you drug somebody in, you didn't do anything
Well,
wrong.
but once you're in the situation, if you pull your field in,
Well, remember, it's instinct. You just feel something crappy, so what do? Stop breathing, pull your field in, get ready, and that caused the vibration to pull it in, reaction. It's just better to say, yuck, walk outside, recenter, and come back in. But that's
How about if you didn't, well, no, I was going to say, how about if you didn't feel or judge something as yucky and just said, I'm just going to pull my field in?
No, you could pull your field in. I'm just saying, she asked me a question, that's how it happens.
Oh.
Okay, because it could happen anywhere, not just in the metaphysical group. Happen, let's say your field is out and you're outside. Well, isn't that what happened when I was at the airport? My field was out, this man's field was out, he was sick, my body was reacting to the pain, and I'm now picking it up. So there could be many different ways that we pick up. But again, what you want to do is be able to get your field in and to be totally in your space and not to project yourself or to feel anybody else's energy unless you consciously decide to be a part of it. Okay? So it's like you and I energetically are going to engage and be totally energetic present, and we should talk about that before that happens. That doesn't mean nothing to do with sex, folks. This has to do with if we're going to connect or blend in some ways, we should be consciously aware of what we're doing and also aware of the boundaries in doing that. We're going to be appropriate and everything's going to be fine. Okay? That's all. Yeah.
Does alcohol allow you to go out of your body, or does it keep you from being aware of you pushing this field out?
Well, alcohol, what it does is it actually fractures your field. So if we have a field and our field is around us and we're in the middle of our field, and this is our energy, if you drink alcohol, it actually will start to crack or fracture your field like a hole in it. But this could be very close to you, not way out. So it actually starts to tear holes in you. And now what happens, if there is energy outside you, the energy will actually be attracted into that place. So it actually makes you vulnerable to things coming into you that you might not want. Okay? Does that make sense? Yeah. Same with drugs or same with high emotions. High emotions can do the same thing. So there's a lot of different things that could affect you there.
Could alcohol have a different effect? Because I don't really drink hardly at all. And yesterday I was with a couple clients. They took them out after I had like 2 beers, and I would, feel it pretty much. That's all I, drink. But this time, oh man, I was like, after I left, I hated the feeling. I couldn't wait for it to go away.
Yeah.
Is that maybe
Well, you
because
could have, again, attracted that energy or those feelings or those vibrations
from the
from the
environment,
alcohol
not
or where you
necessarily-
are, environment, who knows what.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the main thing is, when you start, if you need to do something that's not good for you, just don't do so much of it. So why couldn't you have a sip of, have wine, and you had a sip of wine, couldn't your mind, once you did that, couldn't your mind know what it feels like to have more than a sip, and couldn't you have the same feeling but not drink so much? Yes, you could. So I could actually take a drink of water, or I could actually just think in my mind what it feels like, and it'll actually start affecting me right now physically. I'm having a physical effect, just like I had a half a glass of wine and I'm relaxed, and I'll slowly start to affect my speech, and I'll start to affect my whole body, my whole mannerism. So why not just do that if you felt like you needed to relax, versus in taking something to where, remember, you don't have to take very much to create it.
Right.
Unless you're using it to numb yourself, and then it could become, then you're gonna have to take more and more, because remember, the more you take, you're gonna need more the next day, right? Anybody else got these kind of things before you feel them? Again, the reason we're talking about pulling our field in is when we get to animals, we want our field to be in, and if my field is completely in, then what that animal's feeling is a mirror of itself. Well, that would feel pretty good, because I'm not projecting anything onto it, okay? So, now, when you go to work with the animal, what you're looking for, again, is the pattern that has been preset ahead of time, all right? So I wonder if we can
Susie?
get her up here.
Susie?
What I want you to do is I just want you to come sit down over here, so okay? What are you doing?
Sorry, camera.
Huh?
Camera angle.
Yeah. Cameron,
Okay, darling. Say.
what do you want from me? Okay, so again, what we want to do, now you know as well as I know, you have to be watching, you have to be aware of an animal's their mannerisms. So if I look straight at the animal, it would be intimidating. So of course I'm going to look down, and pretty soon the animal will come over, and now I can look at the animal. But if I looked at the animal at first, then we would have a problem. See? So again, isn't that the same way you want to be with people? Does it make any difference if you do that? All right? Does it make any difference at all? If I have to be powerful and dominate somebody by that, but again, you look down as soon as they're going to look away, you look away as soon as they look at you, and then as soon as they look away, you can look at them, and then you're together, okay? So you just watch the way that they interact. So you just want to watch the way dogs act. It's really cool, because I'm sure humans act very similar. We just don't get it, okay? We don't get the little dance we do. We don't get the deal, okay? Okay, come on over here. Come on back over. It's okay. I'm not going to do anything. It's okay. Yeah, I like you. It's okay.
Sit.
Now, what happens is, again, we make eye contact. And just have a seat on your get closer so she knows you're okay. She's not worried about you. She's not too sure about me. The reason she's not sure about me is because I'm not projecting anything off, so it could make her feel actually uneasy to a certain degree, because she can't feel anything, okay? If she can feel that, she can't feel me, okay? And because her and I have not agreed to do that yet. Okay, so we're just being respectful, and she's going to completely ignore me now. Because I ignored her, she's going to ignore me. That's good. We're playing a little dog game. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is each one of us have a pulling and sending hand. Okay? That's how you do it. All right? And so this is my hand right here, is my pulling hand. My right hand is my pulling hand. Now, that's true with all men. Your left hand for women is your point now, and I'll go back in a little while and I'll prove it to you, okay, because we're at a point where you need to prove it. Now, and a lot of people are now teaching actually the opposite way, because they say men should be this way and women that way, which is actually a little bit different. So what I'm doing now is, this is my hand that's going to scan. It's also my hand that will eventually pick up energy. But if I was to scan, what I'm using is I'm looking for the animal's energy field to be able to pick up a pattern, but I don't want to take the pattern away, because that wouldn't allow you to understand what the pattern's about. So what I'm doing is I'm just scanning, and of course there's the pattern. The pattern's right there. And you come over here and use your left hand, and just go over, and you're looking for a hot spot that's about the size of a fingernail. Mhm.
The pulling hand is the scanning hand.
Yeah, pulling hand is your scanning hand. Okay? But you're now scanning, but you're not pulling in. You're just using it to pick up information, to access it. Now, she immediately picked it up. Okay? When she picked it up, it affected her. It affected her belly, and it started affecting her taste in her mouth. So she actually started to pick up the energy. Okay? So she was curious about it. Because she was curious about it, she started picking it up, and when she started picking it up, it started having a physical effect on her. Even though she might not feel it, because she's so used to it, it actually started having an effect on her. Okay? So what we want to do is, again, we want to scan it. Okay? There's the pattern. And so there it is. So what are we saying? We're saying that this animal has a program that's been preset at some point in its life, and by releasing that program, she can become healthier. Because if there's a program set, it's going to have an effect on her somehow physically. Even if it's very minor. Now, we would assume that this animal has every single pattern that you have is on this dog. Okay? So every single pattern is on this dog. So if we go to scan, we're going to find a pattern right here. Okay? It's a hot spot. So go ahead and take your hand this time. That's good. That's good. Just run your hand down to the hot spot. Right there. Okay. Now I'm just going to run my hand down on your back, and so the pattern is on her. So the pattern she wears, the animal wears. Okay? Now, if you watch it, there's a funny taste to it. Anybody picking up the taste? So it actually causes a chemical reaction. There's a chemical reaction with how we are together. Okay? So there's probably so much going on we don't even want to know. Okay? But just think about, if you think that's going on with this little dog, imagine what's going on with your family, the rest of your family, right? So that's why you want to fully feel them. Okay? So what we want to do is, by changing, what I found is, people do all kinds of energy work with animals, but until we change this program, this pattern will never fully go away. Okay? Does that make sense to you? Now, for you, you have to understand the program. Okay? But for the animal, all it needs is something unconditional to allow the program to shift. So if I could be unconditional with this animal, it would actually change this program and it would be gone forever. They might do it about once or twice and then it would be gone forever. Right? Now, let me ask you, if somebody loved you unconditionally and didn't want anything from you, and you could actually resonate with that unconditional love, would it change you forever? Yeah. So what is the difference between that and healing with another person? Being used unconditionally, without any kind of projection, they will find that within themselves and they will be healed. So you can certainly see what your issues are going to be. Your issues are going to be your conditions. Right? All right. So you want to talk about this now?
So you're saying there's a program in the dog that's causing the hot spot?
Yes,
Hot spot is an indication that something is
it's a program.
out of balance?
Program. You should be able to scan and find nothing, but you'll always find a program. You'll always find a program. Will I find a program within you? Do you have something that's happened to you when you were little that's still playing out today in some degree? The answer is probably. The more you're aware of it, does the program change? Yes. Okay. But for the animal, we can actually help to dissolve that program by reassuring it reassuring it with a vibration that'll never happen again. So it's what the program is. This dog is afraid something's going to happen. I don't know quite what. Whether she's going to lose her, or whether they're going to get lost, or who knows what, or there's some problem. Okay. You know what the problem would be? Okay. So you've never had any kind of dynamics with the dog as far as
She's got lost.
okay, so that could be it. Thinking lost. Okay. If you got lost and you couldn't find yourself, would that be horrifying to you? Absolutely. You ready? Now, let's go ahead and take a break now. Let's take about like 5 or 10 minutes. Can people make tea or something?
Well, I have juice and water there.
Juice and water. Good. Okay.
Yeah.